Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff. You are here exclusively with me here Saturday morning, 8 a.m. We love our morning sessions. We have a ton of things to cover. We're going to do it all in an hour, and we're going to talk about Ripple XRP. Why? Because Ripple is now officially and has probably already been on 6 continents and 40 countries using RippleNet, their RippleNet, powered by RippleNet, potentially engaging with the XRP and the XRP ledger. I'm getting tons of bright light here. Hang on. Let me see if I can wipe it out. Almost up. Nope. The light is just pointing right down at me. That's okay. We'll have to bear with it. But Ripple is one topic. We have to get into it because it is one of the most significant use cases within the space. The other area that we want to focus in on is really world governments that are racing. They want that prime pole position spot to lead the cryptocurrency revolution. And by lead, that doesn't necessarily always mean a positive. That could also mean a control element of what the governments are trying to do on a global scale. Some are doing it well. Some are tripping all over themselves, trying to figure things out. The U.S. is one of those that has tripped over themselves continuously as they seek for a potential outcome of how they are going to manage the digital asset space. Although there have been significant regulatory clarity bills that have been sitting in front of Congress for a couple years at least. One of the primary bills being the Token Taxonomy Act that can bring true clarity, true regulatory clarity to the space to allow the U.S. to resume and take on its mantle as the number one country supporting and promoting the development of this technology, of blockchain, and this great crypto asset class. Where are they with that? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk a lot more because there's so many great things to talk about. And I think all of that is going to start right now.
Welcome to On the Chain.
All right. Who's ready to go? Who is ready to go? If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you run out. Go get your, spilling it all over the place. The excitement, even the espresso's jumping out of the cup. Make sure you go get your espresso. It's another great Sigfredo morning. I need to stock up on some of the other coffees. I'm a little bit low right now. We're down to a couple bags of the Sigfredo espresso. One came from overseas, others we were able to get here. But anyhow, so just a quick shout out to DNI for being number one in the stream today. Welcome back. So everything, make sure you go get your coffee because we're here. We're ready to go. You should have already had your coffee ready and set. So Ron, what is up? You've got your coffee all set in the OTC coffee mug. Hopefully that's great. So I want you guys, give some shout outs. Oh, check it out. We got Greg with his Tim Hortons straight up in Canada. He's got his espresso from Tim Hortons. Good stuff. Mohammed's got his espresso. Awesome. We got senior and sometimes junior all the way in from Denmark. So I want to give a few people a shout out. We're going to dive right into this thing because there's just so many things going on. Obviously, we've seen a little bit of a bloodbath over the past week, and we've seen how the media has been reacting to the drop in the values of the crypto space, mainly because the media focuses in on two things. Either they want to hype you up with a bunch of FOMO and get you fired up on something that, might already be past its prime, or They want to drag you down and they want to fill you with as much negativity as they possibly can as they pull you down into their emotional ride. So before we get into all that, I do want to look here. You know what? I forgot to pull it up on my screen. Hang on a second. Let's do this because this one is key. We're going to jump right into the whole RippleNet announcement. Now, we look at Global Banking and Finance Review. We're talking about getting into industry-related magazine type stuff. Industry-related news. Now, the top story in this industry-related news is RippleNet is now live in over 40 countries across 6 continents. Now, this becomes really important because they're highlighting, they're underscoring exactly what these guys do. Now, it says here, the milestone was hit earlier today as new payment corridors opened in North America, Asia, Africa, Europe, and South America. Now, we get into this. I love seeing this because they're looking at RippleNet. Now, RippleNet may have absolutely nothing to do with XRP. We might never see XRP and the ODL come full force into reality. We do know that ODL is being utilized in Japan. We've heard about it. They've discussed it. They've focused in on how important XRP and the XRP ledger is to the structure of what's going on in the development in Japan. Now here it says, these new open corridors create more connection points for RippleNet members around the world. Now, as you're building the solution, as you're building the technology, imagine you hold back on the best part, but the best part, which is the ODL, can't truly be put into place until you have all the rails completed. Until you have banks and financial institutions on every continent that are using your solution, the ODL, the on-demand liquidity, is not as impactful until you have enough customers to where it becomes impactful. And so one of the primary points with Ripple and RippleNet, and so many others out there will say, why do you guys keep talking about Ripple? Why do you keep talking about XRP? Why do you talk about Ripple, even though you don't necessarily see eye to eye politically on some of the things that the leadership of Ripple do and say? Why would you continue talking about the benefit and the development that they have been undergoing now for the past 8-9 years? And we see it. And granted, we also talk about the failures when they come out and they focus too much politically, and they put themselves in a position that, personally, my opinion, they need to stay in their lane and focus on developing the rails for the movement of money. That is what they do best. They need to stay out of all other arguments. They don't do that. That's fine. What we need to focus in on is the crypto space at large, and what is bringing about the growth and development is full mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency. Now, to get full mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency, you need key solutions in the real world. Without being in the real world, you're never going to get mainstream adoption. So, real world, what does that mean? Real world is what Ripple is working on with RippleNet, building rails to effectively move money from country to country. It's a major, major issue. We all know that. We've all talked about that. Those that are invested in XRP understand the XRP ledger. They understand the fact that the XRP ledger as an overall is also a game changer in the space. It's one of the game changers, not the only game changer. There's other elements that needed to grow up and get built around it in order for the XRP ledger to see its full utility. But it's a very important component to the movement of money. We know that Ethereum, with its smart contracts, can be very effective as a smart contract. As far as movement of money, not so much, because it's too expensive to utilize due to the gas fees. Way too expensive. Now, when we look at the development within the banking space, now take a step back and you look at Bitcoin, and the original adopters of Bitcoin said, we're going to get rid of all banks and everything is going to happen on Bitcoin. Now, we also know that that's not true, because Bitcoin, too slow, too expensive to move as a day-to-day utility token for purchases. Maybe at some point in time, there'll be technology to build that can, or why don't you just utilize the XRP ledger? Then you can do it efficiently and effectively. But the point being is that initially there was this idea that banks would just become obsolete. But the brick and mortars are becoming obsolete. Banking will never become obsolete. Why? Because these third-party providers that allow us to transact our digital asset from one to another, whether it's decentralized in the DeFi space or it's more of a centralized solution like a Coinbase or an Uphold, they need to exist. They're different. They're going to be different than the traditional bank, but the new bank, where you're gaining interest on your holdings, maybe like a Celsius, where you can take out loans. If you have to go buy your house, you're not always going to pay cash for it. You need a mortgage. If you're going to go get your car, you're not always going to pay cash for it. You're going to lease it. You need a bank. But the traditional idea of a bank might be going the way of the dodo bird. The new vision of the bank, these new titans of tomorrow, which are starting today, as Alex Mashinsky once told us a couple interviews ago on the chain, he said that from the ashes, a new titan class will reveal themselves, a whole new leadership class. And when we talk about the ashes, you talk about the breakdown of the brick and mortars, moving into the online, into the fintech. But even the fintech, you got to take a step further into the DeFi, because decentralized finance is critical to the advancement of all. Now, when you look at what RippleNet is doing, and we focus in on this, why it's so significant, because in order for all of this to be connected, you still need the rails, whether people are operating on fiat, whether it's central bank digital currency, whether it's a digital asset, whether it's XRP, XLM, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Now, over the past years, they have been orchestrating and putting all of this technology down. They're connecting all of the banks, whether they're fintech or brick and mortars, or the brick and mortars become fintech, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. They've laid it down. The UK to Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Canada to Nigeria, Brazil to Spain, Italy, Germany, France, and Portugal. I mean, there's tons and tons of interconnectivity being created here. Now, look at this. By opening new corridors across North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia, we're expanding the global footprint of individuals who can benefit from faster, right? Faster and cheaper cross-border payments. This has been the epicenter of the development. This is the epicenter of everything that cryptocurrency represents. Faster and cheaper. It's bringing everything to the people. What is up, Belfast? Good to see you, Tom. So look at this. Whether it's global banks or technology forward payment providers like Rational FX, right? Financial institutions are focused on building connections between themselves. They have to have that. If they don't have the connections between themselves, how do they use the RippleNet solution. How do they use the XRP ledger? How do they take advantage of ODL if they don't have the rails connecting themselves? It's impossible. It's impossible. So it's critical at this point in time. It's so critical to see exactly what's happening with RippleNet. This is the foundation. You're not seeing this kind of development and interconnectivity with Bitcoin. You're not even seeing it with Ethereum. You're not seeing it with any of the others, but RippleNet's primary focus, and all the others know it. Everybody knows that in order to facilitate this full movement into the mainstream, outside of the crypto geeks and the computer geeks and the tech geeks that understand how to function within this space, if you've tried to get into any assets and you've had to use Uniswap and you've had to transact through MetaMask and you've had to go over to somehow using Pancake Swap, if you've moved from exchange to exchange, if you had to go off to another exchange like Biloxi that no one's ever heard of or whatever it is, and you're moving assets around, that's not mainstream adoption, and big business will never do that. Never. It's not functional. It's not practical. They will never do that until there's a streamlined solution that will allow big business to easily interact with the digital asset space. It's going to be very rare and uncommon that you see them actually come together. Now, the one area that we have seen people get and adopt into Bitcoin, let's say, is like Elon Musk or Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy or, the guys over at Circle. Now, these are tech geeks. They understand the space. They understand what needs to happen. They understand how to transact their currency into Bitcoin. Now, in order to bring it to a bigger scale, then you need to have a specific UI. You need to have a specific functionality. It has to be mainstream. In order for it to be mainstream, you need the rails. If you need to build the rails, you need an organization like Ripple. And Ripple might not be the end all be all. They might go away. Someone might replace them and do a better job. Someone might even use the XRP ledger and do a better job than Ripple and say, we're going to take the politics out of it and we're just going to focus on development of finance. And we understand what that part means. And we're going to keep our mouths closed when it comes to talking about and trying to compete with Bitcoin and talk about why XRP is better because it's green and Bitcoin isn't. Maybe that's not the conversation that you need to have. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe because in this area, this period of time, maybe that's what people need to do. Check out Simon all the way in from Uganda. What is up? Great to see you, Simon. We have people here that come in from all over the world. We're open to all. I love people all over the world. Everybody's proud to be where they're from. Everybody's proud to be in the cryptocurrency space because the cryptocurrency space is life-changing. Who was that clown we were reading the article the other night that said that cryptocurrency has done nothing to change the world? As they focus in on just one little snapshot over the past 6 months where cryptocurrency increased, and all of a sudden they start focusing on it because it dropped off the cliff and the bubble burst, so to speak. That's their whole world. What has cryptocurrency done to change the world? We have people here from all over the world that understand that it's changing the world. We're talking about a company with Ripple or Ethereum or even Bitcoin in general that has brought people into the financial space. We have people in cryptocurrency today that have never invested in stock, that might have minimal savings. And for the first time ever, they're talking about saving for their future. For the first time ever, they're excited about investing. For the first time ever, they're talking and learning about the financial impact of what happens on a global scale, what the geopolitical aspect, how it impacts your finances back home, how it impacts your pocketbook. For the first time ever, people are understanding the ramification of who they vote for will directly impact the taxes and the tax burden that they have to pay when they make money. Before that, people were not necessarily in a position to understand capital gains tax. They never had to deal with it before. They never had to deal with a wealth tax. They never had to deal with an inheritance tax. But now they have complete visibility because they've now made money. There's a lot of crypto millionaires, 100,000aires, 10,000aires that have been created. And now they realize, as they listen to their current political speak, that they might very well pay a hefty burden for the investment that they've made, for the risk that they took. To take it a step further, they're now being told by certain government officials that they're not smart enough to invest, that they're not smart enough to take risk. And that's what we want to talk about as well. And this is really important. I want to look up, so Moonbag says they shill the 40% dip, but don't mention assets are up 6,000% on the year. That's exactly it. The media will focus on the negative. Government officials will focus on the negative as a way to try to protect you. I haven't talked about this a lot, but there was a book written back in 1994 by a guy named Paul Eidelberg. He wrote a book called Demophrenia. It was a political perspective case on a specific country. The concept of demophrenia is the schizophrenic nature of democracy, that people are willing to sacrifice their freedoms for some unknown threat in the future based on their experience of a threat that already existed. That could be a difficult concept to understand, but people are also willing to pay a hefty price in order to potentially avoid something that might never happen. That happens economically, that happens politically. And yet when you sit and you listen to the news, this is what they prey on. They prey on your emotion. They prey on the idea that you might never go and investigate or do your own research a step further, and they're going to take advantage of that. And it's unfortunate. Michael says, Jeff getting more listeners than Fox News. I hope that would be the case. I hope that would be the case. We really, we have to get the message out. Too many people on YouTube, also work within that FOMO fuddy space. One of the things that Chip and I talked about a while ago when we set up on the chain is that we knew that there were new people coming into the space. There were existing people in the space. And the one thing that we did not want to do was peddle false hope, to peddle hype, to prey on hype, FOMO, or FUD. Sometimes we have fun with the thumbnails and, we'll mess with the thumbnails. but other than that, it's critical that we have a place to hash out ideas, that we have a place to engage with people all over the world, because this is something that impacts everybody. It impacts all of us equally. Now, when we look around, we can really start seeing the lack of, I don't want to say it's disingenuine, pretty much. But take a look at this. So the one thing that we know is that in order to develop this space, there's going to be a tax burden. Everybody knows that. If you're buying and selling digital asset, you make a profit, there's going to be a tax. The question is, how overreaching, how overzealous are the agencies to tax you? Are they going to treat it fairly? Are they going to treat you unfairly? Are they going to put an undue burden on you? Or are they going to manage your capital gain in a fair way? That's a big question. It's a very big question. Take a look at this.
Elsewhere, crypto, but a big story for you through the week. Bitcoin finding its footing as it limps into the weekend with a second consecutive week of big declines on the table here. The Treasury delivering the latest blow to crypto markets, announcing transfers over $10,000 will need to be reported to the IRS. For more, here's Bloomberg's Kaylee Lyons. Hey, Kaylee.
Hey, John. Well, we know the Biden administration has been looking to crack down on taxes, and lo and behold, cryptocurrencies don't seem like they're going to be immune to that. As you said, the IRS proposing applying to these rules to transfers over $10,000. So essentially the same rule that applies to cash transfers.
So you look at the way he phrased the opening of this. Sounds very negative, very pessimistic, very antagonistic. The language that they're using, IRS looks to tighten crypto controls. Fear mongering. Are they trying to push the market into more red? They're focused in on that. So what are they proposing? They're proposing that if you, and look at the fact that they're focused in on Bitcoin only. Bitcoin for them is all crypto. Why? Because it's like tissue or Kleenex. They don't know. They don't really know what it is, but Bitcoin. But if you're moving, now, mind you, moving $10,000, just like cash, if you move $10,000 cash, it will get reported. There's a $10,000 rule. It'll get reported. I don't have a problem with the fact that if you have $10,000 on an exchange and you move it to another exchange, that those exchanges, in order to get into mainstream, have to report it. Here they're saying would minimize incentive to shift income. The problem isn't the reporting. The problem is what their plans are. The lack of regulatory clarity, the lack of anticipation. Does the IRS get to make the rules when they have no rules in the rule book? Does the SEC get to make the rules when there's no rules in the rule book? So IRS added cryptocurrency line to Form 1040, warns of crypto facilitating illegal activity. Facilitating. Not that the illegal perpetrators are utilizing another form of payment like fiat. Oh, by the way, they use cash. How about the billions of dollars that the US government a couple years ago transferred over to Iran, a terrorist supporting country, in cash? Was that not facilitating illegal activity with cash? But yet here they're talking about they want to incentivize, they want to minimize, because crypto is facilitating it. And you know what they're pointing at? Doesn't it all seem a little bit too coincidental that one of the things that they want to achieve, they want to go after cryptocurrency. They want to look at what cryptocurrency means. They want to find a way to penalize and tax it. They want to find a way to overregulate it. Now, the Token Taxonomy Act has been sitting in Congress now for 3 sessions. The one bill that can bring about true understanding. But yet they want to ignore it. There was a hack on a pipeline. And by the way, the Northeast was short on gas. Too bad for them. But at the same time, they reported that $90 million in Bitcoin was transferred to this hacking group. Who transferred it? Why did they transfer it? Were they paying off these ransomers? Were they paying off financial terrorists? What were they doing? But yet, the powers that be that are coming out against digital asset because they want to underscore that cryptocurrency facilitates illegal activity are raising the concern and using this latest incident as an example of why they need to rein it in because of illegal activity. It's exactly what they're doing. So anyhow, let's go to the next one. Hang on a second. All right. So the SEC chair told the 2021 FINRA conference, we should be ready to enforce crypto cases. We need rules of the road and a cop on the beat to protect everyday investors. Now, I agree and I disagree. You can do that. You can agree and disagree with a statement. I disagree. We need rules of the road. I disagree with the fact that they're truly doing it to protect everyday investors. There's a point. Let's see what he said. Told the virtual conference attendees, as we think about enforcement, to me, the idea is pretty simple. We need rules of the road and a cop on the beat to protect everyday investors and achieve our mission. Again, I agree with this. Token Taxonomy Act. Rules of the road. Rules of engagement. Who's the cop on the beat? Who are they going to assign? Wait a minute. We have agencies. We have laws already. You don't need a new agency. You don't need a new law. You don't need a new individual. It can fall under SEC guidelines to do what they do if they have the rules to do it by. The CFTC can do their part if they have the rules to do it by. The IRS will do their part if they have the rules to do it by. But those agencies shouldn't be able to dictate or create their own terms. Says, yeah, Gensler, the former commodity, the CFTC chair who took over SEC in April, acknowledged rules of the roads. Oh, hang on. Rules of the road have yet to be firmly established. I agree, 100%. He suggested that a regulatory framework for cryptos exchanges put in place by CFTC or SEC would be a boon for consumer confidence and protection. So he says, let's see, right now there's not a market regulator around these crypto exchanges. There is and there isn't. They're still operating within a specific financial framework. The problem is, it's not that there's not a regulator. The problem is there's no rules of engagement. It's not the regulator. The regulator exists. No protection around fraud or manipulation. Yes and no. I agree and I disagree. And we're going to get into that in a minute. So, let's go here. So Hester Pierce, we know, talked about a safe harbor proposal for token projects because there's some misunderstanding. If you had the understanding on the books, you wouldn't necessarily need the safe harbor, but the safe harbor, look, it gives startups 3 years before registering them as a security. You have to develop, you have to build, but at some point, if they're going to register them as a security, there's no rules of the road. Hey, that's great, but you have no rules. How are you going to operate? Even with a safe harbor, there's no way of functioning, no way of operating. Now, let me go into a little bit of a rant. It's kind of a pre-prepared rant. Hang on a second. Got to get a little espresso. See what people are saying. Some great things in here. Rags to Riches said, we need to get educated and grow some balls. It's true. It's exactly true. We need to get educated. You have to get educated. If the government comes and promises you something, it's not true. There's a lot of issues that are going on in the US that's scary. This is one of them. decentralized finance should not be burdened by centralized government. Decentralization brings freedom. Decentralization doesn't mean anarchy. There still are rules of engagement that are good for society, that society agree on, societal norms. I was listening to a podcast today and they're talking about governor overreach. Governors dictating to state politics, state Senate, state House, state reps, where the governor, one voice, can dictate the terms of how a state is run without the engagement of the state House and the state Senate. That's wrong. That's now bordering on centralized control when one voice can overrule the voices of the people. The same goes with the presidency. The same equal saying should be globally understood. Because if it's not globally understood, the democratization of money, the decentralization of money will be even more difficult. The Soviet Union in its heyday regulated everything, overburdened everything, took away your rights to everything, dictated who would succeed and who would fail on a regular basis. How did that work out for the people? How does it work out for the people in Venezuela? How does it work out for the people in North Korea? How is the overburdening politics working out for people in many countries of these brutal socialist totalitarian regimes? Decentralization of finance is a game changer. Even in China, they understood when they moved into capitalism, there was a direct struggle between capitalism and communist politics. Over the last 20 plus years and more, as China moved into joining the world global economy as a leader economically, there were many challenges and struggles. One of the biggest primary challenge and struggle of China was how do you engage capitalism, but maintain control of the people through the communist political infrastructure. And there was a lot of tension over the years. I still don't think they managed to do it well. They let the cat out of the bag. There's a lot of billionaires, but now with the digital yuan, they found a mechanism to rein it all back in again. You know, the same goes for here. So, I mean, there's so much. There's so much. So, hang on a second. We don't need this up. Get rid of that. So here we go. So here's some thoughts, right? Now we have this tone that's developing. Oh, here's another one. I got to put this one up first. Hang on. I already opened it though. Where is it? Here we go. So, you know, SEC chair says, yeah, we need to regulate. We need to find a way. Then he says the agency, the SEC, needs to aggressively act against bad actors. They aggressively have to enforce the rules, but they have no rules. Hence a problem. How does the Securities Exchange Commission operate on rules and rules that were written back in 1933 and 1934 when the SEC really came about? How do they continue working on that? He would aggressively pursue bad financial actors who are playing with working families' savings. Again, I agree and disagree. He wants to regulate broker-dealers and exchanges. I agree and disagree. The exchanges are already regulated. If there's an exchange that's approved in the US, they've already come into being, right? They've already come into being. So hang on a second. Where am I? Why is everyone saying bring me back? Where'd I go? I don't know where I went. Well, I don't even know what that means. Where am I that I need to be brought back? Hang on a second. Here he says, at the SEC, we're focused on going after conduct wherever we find it in the financial system. That means holding individuals and companies accountable without fear or favor across approximately $100 trillion capital markets we oversee. Hey, great. That's awesome. We need to do whatever we can do to ensure that bad actors aren't playing with working family savings. Gamification of trading, market structure, enhancing transparency. So we can agree and we can disagree with some of this stuff, okay? But now let's look at this. So as we get into this, I kind of look at the tone that's being set, both positive and negative. Positively, they want to look out for the investor, so they say. Negatively, the other elements within the government are trying to penalize those who are investing in the crypto space. Now, here's the thing. Now, if you go to the casino and you put all your money, you take all your money out of your savings and you go to a casino and you gamble with your money, you should know that you have a high risk of losing every last dollar that you showed up with. It's stacked against you unless you know how to gamble properly. If you're playing blackjack, if you know how to, increase your bets according to your win, if you understand the dynamics of what's being played, and there's a strategy, you might have a little bit better of a chance of winning. And when you know when to walk away, win or lose. Most people don't. You're gambling. People should also understand that they should not invest, whether in stock or cryptocurrency, more than they can afford to lose, because there's a chance you'll lose it. I don't care if you invest in a stock or if you invest in a cryptocurrency. People are attracted to certain stocks that seem to be too good. There's a lot of hype built in the media over a stock, and you get into it. It's $100. Then all of a sudden it pulls back to 50 and you're like, what happened? I just lost half my money. And then you sell. And then the market goes back to 100 and you buy again. And you're like, what happened? I lost another half of my money. That happens on a regular basis. The government isn't there to protect you from that. That's your choice. That's your decision. Those are working people. Are they protecting you from your own decisions? Now, is a 9-to-5 worker any less intelligent when you're investing $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000? Are you more or less intelligent than the person investing $1 million? Are you more or less intelligent than the accredited investor that has a net worth of $1 million or over and is investing X and is invested for a certain period of time? Can you both get wrecked equally with an equally detrimental impact on you personally? Yes. Now, is the SEC, with all of this conversation, everything they want to do, is it to protect you? Is it looking out for the little guy? Or is it another mechanism to hold somebody back in life? Through the accredited investor programs, and access to IPOs is limited to certain people in the IPO space, and has been. If you have a certain net worth, you can invest in an IPO. Why can't I invest in an IPO with $1,000 or $10,000? Why is it only limited to those that can invest $1 million? Why shouldn't we all have equal access to investing in that IPO? Why shouldn't we all have access to taking that risk? Isn't that based on someone's risk tolerance? Now, is the government at the same time going to stop somebody from investing their entire life savings in a brand new business? Based on the tone that I hear that the SEC is there to help protect the investor, shouldn't they stop somebody from investing their entire life savings in a brand new business that might fail? How about a brand new restaurant? How about a brand new store? Whatever it is, a brand new product. If you watch the Shark Tank, you've seen many people that have gone on that show that said they put their entire life savings into a product that the investors say, wow, you probably shouldn't have done that. Those guys just wrecked themselves. Is the government going to now step in and say, hey, don't do that? Don't invest in that business? Where would we be today if that was the case? Is the government's role to protect the investor from themselves? Or is the role of these agencies there to monitor the companies, to make sure the companies don't do something illegal to hide their agenda? I guess if they do that, they're kind of protecting the investor. But don't do it and tell us that you're doing it to protect us when you're limiting my ability to invest my money to make more gains. That's not protecting me. Now, how about all those businesses that were looted and burned to the ground last summer? Where was the federal government? Where was the local government to support and protect them? Nowhere. Where is the government to protect all the restaurants that went out of business over this past year on a global scale? Businesses that have gone out of business. People that are unemployed all over the place as a result of those businesses. Where is the government to protect them? Why is the government now in the business of picking winners and losers? When do you guys wake up? When do we wake up? Now, companies and individuals should be held accountable when they cheat and steal. If they sell something malicious or dangerous, if they make it seem safe, it's a safe investment, but it isn't. If they hide the fact that you're in a margin call, but you're not. If you don't understand a margin and they hid the fact it was a margin and you're borrowing against your cryptocurrency and the market plummets and your margin gets called and you lose your money, maybe that organization, if they hid the fact that you were in a margin, maybe they should be held accountable. It's very cut and dry. It's very simple from that perspective. The rules of the road. The Token Taxonomy Act will create the rules of the road. It's not up to the SEC operating on old premise. There's rules on the books. There's laws on the books. Hold those accountable to certain laws to not cheat and steal. But at some point, too much is too much. The government doesn't get to decide an individual's risk tolerance. My risk tolerance might be bigger than yours. It might be less. I might be willing to lose 100,000. I might not. You might be willing to lose 100,000. I might not. Now, if the government was able to decide an individual's risk tolerance to protect them, then they would also have stopped the development of companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, and hundreds of companies just like it. Akamai, game changer. If you don't know what Akamai is, look it up. A game changer in the web development space back in the 90s. What they had to go through to create that company to bring the changing dynamics to speed up the internet would never have happened if the government got to decide somebody's risk tolerance and shut them down. Now, what I say that is because of the overreach. They say that they're there to protect the individual investor, but you're not there to protect me from investing in a business. You know, it's crazy. It's really crazy. You know, it goes on and on and on. the crypto space. It goes back to Ripple, RippleNet. Huh. You know, Bakir Bazabey, can you explain how crypto is against criminal transactions? How does it work? How is it against criminal transactions, or how does it facilitate criminal transaction? A criminal isn't going to necessarily use a technology that is slow and inefficient and can be traceable. There's organizations that have been developed that track down Bitcoin addresses and other addresses and can piece it all together because there's a trail, there's a footprint. At some point, those addresses are going to reveal themselves, just like any other investigation. Any other investigation. So, any investigation is difficult. If the crime was committed with fiat currency, the one thing that is 100% certain is that you're not tracking the fiat currency. It's gone. Gone. But when they use Bitcoin, it's traceable. They can see the money moving or just sitting there. The money isn't the crime. The Bitcoin isn't the crime. The XRP isn't the crime. The crime is something else that was committed. Go after the crime that was committed, not the asset that's used. Is now gold an issue if they're going to start using gold? I mean, come on. It gets absurd at some point. It really does. Deutsche Bank says the value of Bitcoin is entirely based on wishful thinking. Again, they come out of the woodworks. We know that Deutsche Bank is getting and dabbling into the crypto space. We know that Deutsche Bank is working on their CBDCs. Isn't it interesting that as they're all trying to ramp up and roll out CBDCs, that they're also now becoming very vocal against a digital asset? Isn't it very interesting that they come out against Bitcoin at a point where it's falling, not when it's rising? When Bitcoin was hitting 60, 65,000, did you hear from all these people? Did you hear from the peanut gallery? The peanut gallery wouldn't dare come out because they would be shunned. But they come out when there's a little bit of a downpull, a downside, a pullback. Then they come out of the woodworks. Now, it could be right or wrong, but it's interesting. You see how the dynamics work. It's just too much, Now, I look at all these politicians and, individuals in the banking space talk about cryptocurrency. How many of them actually understand cryptocurrency? How many of them understand blockchain? How many politicians, for that matter, understand science? Yet they want to embrace and critique individuals in the science community. They want to, critique doctors that research, that are in the science community, because they have a political agenda. The politicians, the same politicians, have economic agenda. They may or may not understand blockchain or cryptocurrency, but yet, when they don't, they're still willing to critique it. Do you think Janet Yellen truly understands blockchain technology? Has she truly been brought up to speed, the dynamic of what decentralized finance is? I would hope so. The way she speaks doesn't seem so. But yet she still wants to remain very vocal to further a political agenda and a political initiative. Now, when I look at people in the financial space, I want to look people that were doers. I don't want to look at an individual who had their entire career in politics. Their entire career, their whole existence. If your entire existence is in politics from the first day of your career, that means you never truly worked in your entire life. The reason why I say that is because there's a real world and a fake world. The fake world is politics. That fake world of politics is not accountable to anybody once you're in that political sphere. Those that get elected for life are no longer accountable to those who've elected them. They're more of a royalty, and they act that way, than accountable. Now, when you look at those that are truly accountable, we could look at somebody like Cathie Wood. Let's look at this real quick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carol Masser of Bloomberg Business Week Radio and TV, and I'm delighted to bring in Cathie Wood. She's the founder, CEO, and Chief Investment Officer of ARK Investment LLC. She is someone who is well known to our audience. Her consistent performance since she started ARK about 7 years ago has certainly given her a lot of notoriety. Cathie, first of all, thank you for joining us. I know it's a crazy day. We're all watching the markets. We're all watching Bitcoin in a big way. The crypto market is coming undone. Last trade was about 35,000 on Bitcoin. What's happening right now, and how low do you think it can go?
Well, I think we're in a risk-off period, and for all assets, if you look at the stock market, the more risky or volatile parts of the market have come in dramatically since mid-February, and I think
notice how the reporter starts off with the negative. You know, the sell-off of Bitcoin and digital asset, which is fine because it pulled back. But look how Cathie Wood is analyzing and responding to this.
a lot of the concerns have been around inflation. Initially, that was helping Bitcoin because obviously Bitcoin's a very important inflation hedge. You know, it's a rules-based monetary policy, the first global rules-based monetary policy we have ever had.
A rules-based monetary policy. She understands. Cathie Wood, the things that she has done in the financial space is almost unheard of. She's catching a lot of flack for the way she runs her portfolios. And here she is. She's explaining the hedge. Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. Other digital assets can be that same hedge. The entire space is a hedge against the manipulation of fiat currency globally. Let's listen.
Hugely important reserve currency of the crypto asset ecosystem. But I think what's happening right now is because the stock market, the highly volatile part of the stock market, the innovation-oriented part of the stock market has gone through such a correction, which has been flamed by inflation fears. I think the correlations among volatile assets are going to one right now, and that's including Bitcoin.
So it's not just Bitcoin. She's talking about the innovation sector. A lot of the big stocks in the innovation sector took a big hit also. Palantir, which is relatively new to the scene, took a hit. Tesla took a hit. A lot of those in the innovation space pulled back. What does Cathie Wood do when they pulled back? She bought the dip. She put more money in. We have a couple minutes here. Let's listen to this here real quick.
Well, I want to unpack a couple of things. So Bitcoin, I mean, you at one point, I think back in April, told Dow Jones that it could go to about $500,000. Do you still hold that target? Do you still think that's where we're headed?
We do. I do. Yassine El-Mandra is our crypto analyst, and we go through soul-searching times like this and scrape the models. And yes, our conviction is as high. The one thing that has changed here, however, is the environmental concerns around Bitcoin in particular have caused people like Elon Musk to pull away and say, whoa, let me.
So I find it interesting, so one of the things she said, and her research team research it emphatically. They have this belief that they announced a month ago. They believe it can go to 500,000. They believe it's going to go to 100,000. We're talking about Bitcoin. Now, if it gets there, great. If it doesn't, great. She's had amazing calls across the board. She may or may not be right or wrong. One of the impetus here of this major pullback has to do, again, with them singling out the energy efficiency model. And, and that's what she's referencing. We talked about this on the last one. They keep attacking the energy efficiency of Bitcoin. And so it's caused a little bit of a pullback. It's caused a little bit of concern, but it's not concern because of the energy. Do you think all these big financial institutions care about the energy dynamic? Do you really think that Elon Musk cares about the energy dynamic? Or is it because they're in a woke atmosphere of politics that goes back into demophrenia because people in their schizophrenic frenzy are willing to demean and undermine specific technologies because they have a certain belief system. And if you don't adhere 100% to what they believe, not what science or not what science on the other side, just based purely on emotion, then you have to, if you're going to appeal to those types of mentalities, it's obviously going to impact the financials. And that's exactly what's happening. It's impacting the financials. And I just want to leave you guys here with one thing, because this is relevant to this point in time, to this exact moment, you know, and I brought this up before, and I think it's really relevant. And we look at this. This is from sciencemag.org, right? Sciencemag.org, which is a nonprofit science journal. Millions of electric cars are coming. What happens to all the dead batteries? You know, and so this is a valid question. People keep talking about recycling the batteries. People talk about, the fact that batteries are better than gas, but no one's talking about what happens when we have to, how do you recycle millions of batteries? Millions, right? Look, current EV batteries are really not designed to be recycled. They're not. Some of them can be, but now we're talking about millions of batteries that are going to end up in landfill. Look, into the China imposed new rules aimed at promoting the reuse of EV batteries. The EU is expected to do the same thing. But in the meantime, look, batteries differ widely in chemistry. In the meantime, what's going to happen? Why is nobody talking about that? We want to rush into certain ideas. We want to rush into science or rush into ideas that aren't 100% backed by science. So can we get more efficient batteries in the future? Yes. Can we get batteries to be fully recycled in the future? Yes. Can we control and regulate the power usage and the offsets of power usage through cryptocurrency and micropayments? Yes. Can it all be tied together? Yes. Are we there yet? No. We're not even there with cryptocurrency yet. We're still trying to get that forward. We still don't know about battery-powered cars. We're still not there to take out our reliance on gas. We could be 10 years ago. Or 10 years forward. It could be 20 years forward. We don't know where it is. But why are they undermining Bitcoin and the power consumption of Bitcoin when they haven't even solved the battery-powered vehicles yet? And now you're going to power them and what you're going to do with that technology. They haven't figured that part out yet, but yet they're okay with that. They're okay with destroying land in order to get all of the all the materials you need to make the batteries, to mine for those batteries. They're okay with all of that, but they're not okay with the power usage of Bitcoin. Because the EV, the electric cars are their thing, and they want to beat up on Bitcoin. They don't like power consumption, not because they're equal or they're both equally bad, but because one is their thing and one isn't their thing. I don't know. I'm going to leave you guys with that. You guys are awesome. Really had a great conversation today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're brand new to On the Chain, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifier. Next week on Tuesday, we are going to have a representative from Helium. If you guys don't know what Helium is, who they are, what they're doing to help further this space, you're going to learn about it on Tuesday. As always, we are here 6 days a week, streaming Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll look forward to seeing you guys back on tomorrow night with Chip will be here with me, co-host. Until then, you guys are awesome. We'll see you on the next one. I'm out. Where is it? Can't even find the, there it is.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.